Welcome back, everybody. We are in beautiful Tennessee. We are in Chattanooga, right on the border of Georgia. And today I'm going to be bringing you some great home-style Southern cooking. We're going to do country fried steak. We're going to do white sausage gravy. We're going to do cornbread muffins. And then I saw a really awesome vinaigrette the other day at a great restaurant here in Chattanooga. And I really wanted to try it with our salad tonight. It's a sweet tea vinaigrette. And if you know anything about the South, other than butter and fried food, it's sweet tea. So this is going to be a fun video. I'm really enjoying showing you guys these different techniques, these different things, these different foods, and I hope you really enjoy it. So let's go ahead and kick this off and get going. We're going to start with the white gravy. I like mine with sausage, so I just got some bulk Jimmy Dean sausage here. And this is a pound. I'm probably going to use just a half a pound because there's only the two of us. So this was in our other video earlier as well. I'm just going to make it a little bit more simple. I'm not going to add onion, but I am going to add a little bit of garlic. So we're going to go ahead and put this under a medium-high heat. I put just a little bit of oil in there just to help get it going. And then normally I just break it up a little bit. Start it going, and then we'll break it up a little bit harder. And the fat that will come off here will help us make our sauce. It'll help us make our roux, and we'll add a little bit of flour, and then we'll add some milk, thicken it up, and that will be our sauce. So we're gonna go ahead and get this cooking, and I'm gonna bring you back once it's browned off. I brought you back. It's quickly browned up, and as you see, I broke it up pretty good. Just like in our previous video, you want nice small chunks for this. Got a decent amount of fat there on the bottom. Now we're not making a huge amount, so that little bit that's right there, that's perfectly fine. So I've got some all-purpose flour, and I'm just gonna go ahead and eyeball this a little bit. Generally, it's a 1-to-1 ratio of fat to flour by weight. So, but I've been doing this long enough where I have a decent idea of where it should be at. So there's two different styles when you make a sauce with roux. This is one where basically you use the fat of what you're using, or like the meat, the protein. Turn this down a little bit, and then from there you're going to add your liquid, and that, you know, and then you get a certain amount from there. The other way is to add in your roux afterwards, so you get a perfect consistency. So now we're going to go ahead. We're going to add our milk. It's about a half a cup. I think I might end up adding a little bit more. As you can see, it's already starting to thicken up. Sorry if that's an annoying sound. Yep, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some more milk. Probably, whoop, right about there. Now don't forget, when you're making country gravy, that black pepper is king in this. You want a nice level of cracked black pepper in here, but we're going to add that towards the end. I've added a little bit when we were cooking it, but you don't want to over season it until the very end. So now it's got a nice consistency, but also it's going to cook down. So as you can see, it's got a little bit of color from the roux and from the pork, and it's starting to thicken up again. So we're just going to let that simmer on a very low heat. We don't want to scorch it and we don't want to burn it. And I'm just going to stir it every so often. And we're going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and check on our corn muffins, and I'll show you those once they're done. And this is just Jif honey corn muffin mix. I didn't make these from scratch, but Jif makes a great corn muffin. Real easy, 1 egg, a little bit of milk, pop them in the oven. I like honey because it's a little bit sweeter. Now we're going to move on to the beef. What I've got here is some mock tender, they call it. I think this is called a terrace major. It's in the shoulder. It's a very tender piece of meat. Generally, this is made with like cube steak. There's some other similar types, but just like undesirable cuts of steak. This is going to work great from here. What we're going to do with this is we're going to pound it kind of thin to about 1/4 inch or so. And try to get it kind of wide. We might have to cut this big one in half here just because it's a bit larger. But what I'm going to do is put it in a gallon-sized freezer bag. I'm going to take my mallet tenderizer here, and I'm basically going to pound it out in an even fashion so it slowly moves itself out. This is really loud, so I'm not going to subject you to that process, but it is a very important process. So let's get started. This is the finished product after I've pounded it out. As you can see, it's pretty thin. I did cut that big one in half. You can kind of see here. Basically what I did was butterfly it. And this gives us a nice consistent product. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to salt and pepper this, both sides. And then I've made this flour dredge right here. And this has got some smoked paprika, onion powder, or granulated onion, granulated garlic, salt and pepper, and a little bit of Lowry seasoning salt, just to give it a little pizzazz. And so this is what's going to make up our dredge to give us that nice crispy outside. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in here once and then let it sit. It'll kind of soak in there. We'll do it again just before we fry it up, and that will make it an extra crispy outside. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started. Always season your meat before you do this. You'll get a much better product. And this, just very simple. Make sure it's totally covered. Shake off excess. We don't want glumps of flour. We just want everything evenly coated. And when you pound things out, you can do this with pork chops, chicken, any proteins really, and it'll give you that faster, more even cooking. All right, we're going to put this aside for now. Let this continue come up to room temperature, so that way it cooks faster in the pan. And then we're going to move on to the vinaigrette. All right, we're going to move on to the vinaigrette. It's going to be a sweet tea, and I've never made this before, so we're going to kind of go on a journey here together. But what I have surmised from the dressing that I tasted yesterday, actually, was the fact that obviously it has oil. I think it's got a little bit of apple cider vinegar, a little balsamic. I've got balsamic reduction, which is fairly similar, but it's not as acidic. A little bit of honey, sweet tea, and some Dijon mustard to hold it all together. So the main thing here is using a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of oil, but we don't want it too thin with the tea. So we're going to start with a little bit of tea and a little bit of the balsamic, mustard, and honey, and then I'm going to kind of go from there. Now I might adjust this here and there a little bit because, again, this is the first time, but I think this is really good. So here we go. You can use regular sweet tea. I have extra sweet because I have a sweet tooth. So I'm going to do about a 1/4 cup, I think. A little bit more, I think. So about a 1/4 cup. I'm going to do just a couple squeezes of this balsamic there. It's strong, so you don't want to go overboard, but I think it adds a nice depth. I've got a little bit of honey here. It'll come out. That's a nice glob of honey. Now the mustard I don't want to go super crazy on. I think just that'll be right there. All right. Now with the vinegar, I'm going to do maybe a 1/3 of a cup. And generally when you do vinegar, when you make a vinaigrette, you're going to do a 2 to 1. So if I used a 1/3 of a cup of vinegar, I'm going to use 2/3 of a cup of oil. So we got our honey and everything in here. Alright, just trying to get all of that mustard off of there. And we're going to do what's called an emulsification. And what that means is basically emulsifying the oil with the other ingredients. Help if I could see. Not quite. That's pretty close. Alright. Now what I have here is an immersion blender, it's called. And what this is going to do is act like a regular blender, but I can do a bunch of different things with it. It is kind of loud, so I apologize for that. I'm going to start it on low so I don't make a big mess. And what you want to do is what I'm going to do is basically hold this at an angle and slowly drizzle in my oil. It helps to be rather coordinated at this point. And I'm just going to go slow. So here we go. Turn this up a little bit. As you can see, it's a very thin, fine drizzle of oil. And it's creating a thicker sauce, or vinaigrette I should say. And see how the consistency is a lot different now? Alrighty, just put that right there so it doesn't make a mess. Where's my spoon? And you can tell if you make a good emulsification, if you hold it to a spoon, you'll be able to see it start breaking apart. Now I made a good emulsification here. It's not showing any signs of breaking. I might have added a little too much oil because it does seem a little shiny, but that's okay. So let's give it a taste. Actually, that's pretty good. It's not quite the same. I think theirs is different. Also, theirs was a lot darker, but I don't think I'm that far off, honestly. It's good though. Okay, I think we have enough vinegar. I think what I'm gonna do is add a little bit more sweet tea, probably a little bit more honey, and then we're gonna season it. You remember, you always have to season your vinaigrettes. You may not think about it, but it's very important. So we're gonna add just a little bit more sweet tea. I think also I'm gonna add a little bit more balsamic. Let me actually see how open. Okay, so this one isn't too acidic. Sometimes they're pretty acidic. So I'm gonna add actually a good squeeze there. And then we're gonna add a bit more honey. Honey is always hard because obviously it's sticky and it doesn't want to let go. So we'll just do our best. Okay, come on. Boop. My little friend here is very curious about what we're doing. He's in there, right? Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get this in here. Mix this up again. Okay, so now it's a little bit darker. You got to be careful how much you add of things after the fact because you don't want to break it. And then you have to go through the process of trying to fix it, and that can be a pain. I actually think that's pretty good. Not 100% the same, but not bad working off of just tasting something and then trying to recreate it. Which is really a lot of what cooking is. It's just tasting something, really enjoying it, and just say, I want to try that. And so that's what we did. My wife loves sweet tea, so she was dying for me to throw this one in there. I'm really glad we did it. Alright, let's go ahead and get back to our beef and get this meal wrapped up. Alright, I've got my pan heated up here. Got about a medium-high heat. This is my carbon steel pan. Normally I would use the cast iron, but I didn't think I'd have quite enough room. So this is a really good sauteing pan. I've got a decent amount of oil in the pan. And the trick is going to be with this is leave it alone. Once you put it down, don't touch it till you're ready to flip. So there we have it. We have our beautiful country fried steak. I've got some garlic mashed potatoes, our sausage white gravy, the cornbread muffin. We've got our salad here. Best salad we had, but it's going to taste great with that dressing on there. This is a really nice Southern classic with a little bit of a twist that I put on it. And I think this is something easy that everyone could do at home. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm really excited about the ones that are coming up. So come back with us.